Hey guys, I wanted to talk real quick about the 4 things that I think about with every contract that I think are incredibly important, that are much more important than every little legalese term and word inside of a contract. Now, granted, there is some value in having lawyers look over contracts, and you should obviously read whatever you sign and all that kind of good common sense behavior. But there's really 4 things that actually matter with a contract, whether it's FedEx or any other business. The first thing, in order of least importance to most, is the length. I don't care how long it is necessarily if the contract itself is bad, right? If it's 1 year, well, if it's a bad contract, well, I don't care if it's 1 year or 50 years. It's still like kind of a bad contract in terms of everything that's inside of it. It's also one of the reasons why I care very little about how long the contracts are at FedEx. I care about what's in it and how long it is, whether it's 1 year, 3 year, whatever. Yes, that's a factor, and it is an important one of those 4 factors, but it's not the only thing, and it's not the most important. The second thing that's most important, though, is the specificity. How specific are we? So, for example, in the FedEx world, a lot of it is like, they say things like, you're going to perform to our standards or quality standards or up to snuff or whatever, right? Like, it doesn't really matter so much if you don't know exactly, well, how many packages do I have to deliver to be not in breach of contract? What exactly standards am I held to in percentage of delivery? You know, like these sorts of things. If you don't have that specificity to it, well, you might have some issues there. And so specificity is really important. The other thing is that whenever you look through a lot of these contracts, like they're not really all that specific where you really want them to be, and they're kind of like specific in the areas like where it doesn't really matter so much. So a little bit of an issue there, but again, it's only the second thing. The third thing that we want to deal with is the enforceability of a contract. It doesn't matter if the contract is specific and it lasts 30 years. If the guy's a hobo that you signed a contract with and he defaults, or let's say you had a loan contract with that guy, well, you can go and sue him or do whatever. You're not going to be able to collect. You're not going to be able to enforce that contract, right? If FedEx doesn't do something that you don't like quite so much, well, what's your legal team look like compared to theirs? How enforceable is it? So there's some issues there. And so enforceability is obviously a really, really important thing. Trying to figure out who is the more enforceable side, that's a little bit of a tricky thing. Depends on what's happening, obviously, but think about that as well. Again, the contract that's lasting 30 years, very specific, doesn't matter if you can't enforce it. The fourth thing that I think is most important is the idea of mutual benefit. If it is mutually beneficial for both parties of the contract to continue to do the right thing, things are going to go well, right? Like, doesn't matter if it's 1 year, doesn't matter if it's 5 years, they're going to just keep on renewing the contracts. You know, like a tenant, whether it's a FedEx contract, it doesn't matter, they're going to keep on doing it. Doesn't matter how specific it is necessarily, because they're going to continue to do the things. Everybody is mutually benefited from that contract. And so, again, mutual benefit is the biggest thing, and we can see that evidently in a lot of the FedEx contracts. It's very beneficial for FedEx to have the contractors and be the backbone of their business model, and it's very beneficial for contractors to continue to work with FedEx and make a bunch of money working with them. So think about those 4 things whenever you bump into another contract. How enforceable is it? How specific is it? What's the length of time? And is it mutually beneficial? So hopefully just thinking about those 4 things is going to help you not get buried in the mire of all the legalese and all the little terms that are in there, and focus on the things that matter. And then you can say, hey, is this contract actually risky or is it not? Because I personally don't think that a short contract with FedEx is risky. I don't think that a 1-year lease with a tenant being a landlord is risky. There's a lot of other things. So length is not one of the things I'm very concerned about. The other 3 things, I definitely am. Anyway, hopefully it just gives you just a little bit of a different perspective. Hopefully this helps. Talk to you soon. Bye.